CAR is the Internet Country Code top-level domain for Canada. The domain name registry that operates it is the Canadian Internet Registration Authority. Registrants can register domains at the second level. Third-level registrations in one of the geographic third-level domains defined by the registry were discontinued on October 12, 2010, but existing third-level domain names continue to be supported. Canadian presence requirements. Registrants of CAR domains must meet the Canadian presence requirements as defined by the registry. Examples of valid entities include, a Canadian citizen of the age of majority, a permanent resident of Canada, a legally recognized Canadian organization, an Inuit, First Nation, MA copyrightists or other people indigenous to Canada, an Indian band as defined in the Indian Act of Canada, a foreign resident of Canada that holds a registered Canadian trademark, an executor, administrator or other legal representative of a person or organization that meets the requirements, a division of the government, Elizabeth II in her capacity as head of state of Canada. History. The domain name was originally allocated by John Postal, operator of Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, to John Denko of the University of British Columbia in 1987. The first CAR domain was registered by the University of Prince Edward Island in January 1988. In 1997, at the Canadian Annual Internet Conference in Halifax, Nova Scotia, the Canadian Internet community, with a view to liberalize registration procedures and substantially improve turnaround times, decided to undertake reform of the CAR registry. The Canadian Internet Registration Authority is a non-profit Canadian corporation that is responsible for operating the CAR Internet Country Code top-level domain today. It assumed operation of the CAR CCTLD on December 1, 2000, from UBC. On April 15, 2008, CIRA registered its 1 millionth CAR Internet domain name. Any CAR registration has to be ordered via a certified registrar. Third-level and fourth-level domains. UBC's registry operations once favored fourth-level names for purely local entities or third-level names for entities operating solely within one province. Nationally incorporated companies could have a CAR domain, while provincially incorporated companies required the letters of their province, like MBCAR. Only an entity with presence in two or more provinces was typically registered directly under CAR. This complex structure caused many Canadian entities to favor the .com, org.net registrations, despite the then higher cost. Currently, any of the above-listed parties can register a domain with a name of their choosing followed directly by Circa. CIRA stopped accepting new registrations for third-level domains on October 12, 2010, citing complexity and the low number of new third domain registration as the reason for the change. As a result, the following domains at the third level are no longer available for registration: ABCAR Euro Alberta, BCCAR Euro British Columbia, MBCAR Euro Manitoba, NBCAR Euro New Brunswick, NFCAR Euro Newfoundland, NLCAR Euro Newfoundland and Labrador, NSCAR Euro Nova Scotia, NTCAR Euro Northwest Territories, NewCAR Euro Nunavut, ONCAR Euro Ontario, PayCAR Euro Prince Edward Island, QCCAR Euro Quebec, SKCAR Euro Saskatchewan, HICCAR Euro Yukon. The second-level domain name GCCAR is commonly mistaken as one of the regional domains under which CIRA will allow Government of Canada registrations. GCCAR is actually a standard domain like all other CAR domain names. CIRA does not register domain names under GCCAR directly. The MIL-CAR second-level domain name is also a standard domain and is registered to the Department of National Defense. The MIL-CAR suffix is used internally by DND on its intranet, the Defense Information Network or Defense Wide Area Network, to distinguish intranet-only websites. Naming restrictions. Internationalized domain names were introduced in January 2013 with a limited selection of characters to allow French-language text with diacritics. Names which differ only in diacritical accents must have the same owner and same registrar. Domain names that begin with the four characters XN are otherwise not available for registration. Length must be 2 to 63 characters, including the XN prefix encoding for internationalized domain names. Names which match the name of an existing generic three-letter top-level domain or the Canadian top-level country code are reserved and therefore not available for new registrations. Certain expletives are not accepted as names. Municipal names of individual cities and localities within Canada are also reserved nationwide, along with village car, hamlet car, town car, city car, ville car and the names of Canadian provinces. There are a handful of existing car-registered names as short as 2 characters in length, but these tend to be rare as 2-letter combinations matching any existing country code TLDs were reserved in the past. Exceptions were typically names registered before the restriction was introduced, such as the Canadian Governor-General at GG Car. Names which exist at any of the levels are blocked in their availability elsewhere in the car hierarchy. Registration, if it can be done at all, requires manual intervention by the prospective registrar as the permission of all existing registrants must be obtained by CIRA. For instance, if the province of New Brunswick were to want to register GovNB car, CIRA's normal automated WHOIS and registration tools would simply return the following error. The domain name provided conflicts with at least one other registered domain name. Registering this domain name requires permission from the registrant, that already holds the domain name, GovOnCar, GovPayCar, GovQCcar. Contact CIRA for more information. Since Ontario, PEI and Quebec already use Gov on their provincial second-level domains for the French-language versions of their government websites, this domain is unavailable through the normal registration process. However, with the agreement of these 3 parties, New Brunswick would indeed be able to register and use GovNB car. Existing third-level domain registrants looking to obtain the corresponding second-level domain are normally advised to use the same initial registrar for both names. Expired domains, after a 30-day redemption period, intended to provide the original registrant one final chance to reclaim a suspended name, the expired names are assigned a to-be-released status. These names are made available through a weekly auction process, in which lists of available names are posted online and advance bids are placed by prospective registrants through the various car registrars. Domains which receive no bids are then released and made openly available for new registrations. References. External links, IANA CarHois Information, CIRA, the Canadian Internet Registration Authority, List of car-certified registrars, Kelly Sinowski, Vancouver Sun, creator of Car celebrates 20 years on web.